it's clean, it's not Christian. Solomon Grundy from the Gotham show. It took me far too long to recognize the name Greg Laurie. That's where my brain went. It makes sense in my head. I don't know if I communicated it well. Yes, it sickens me. It made me very, very proud to be an American. It made me absolutely furious. There were lots of tears. They didn't all escape my eyes, but there were lots of tears. Hi guys, welcome back to another Nerd Rants video. Christian movie edition. Yes, in case it has not been clear, I've been basically avoiding secular media for the Lent season, so no movies, no shows, no YouTube videos, any of that. I've been strictly focusing on Christian things and my faith and things like that. So I rewatched The Chosen, finished that in like 2 weeks, and now I'm watching a crap ton of Christian movies. Like, I went on the internet and started looking up Christian movies because I don't know that many. So we're gonna go on a rant about like 6 of them today. Yeah, let's see how long this gets. I'll try to keep it fairly concise. We'll start with the ones that I didn't really get into. There is one show in here. There's not that many Christian shows besides like The Chosen, which is a little bit sad, but you know. Anyway, yeah, so we'll start with the show because it was probably my least favorite. I didn't finish it. I don't know if I will. It's literally the description. The first sentence is a Christian police drama. God was mentioned once as a profanity, and church was mentioned once in reference to an AA meeting. So I don't know how it's considered Christian. Like, it's clean, it's not Christian. So I got about 4 episodes into that and went, actually, no, like, this is not even a Christian thing. How can you put the word Christian in there? I keep waiting for it to have like a episode where it all turns and it's like, oh, all the Christian themes, but that hasn't happened yet, and it's a very short season, so I'm halfway through it with just the 4 or 5 episodes that I watched. So that probably won't get finished, but we'll see. Then probably the movie that I enjoyed the least was Grace Unplugged. This might be partially because it's the only one that isn't based on true events, but I feel like it's just got the weakest story. So girl that leads worship with her dad, who used to be a rock star and converted, and had his one-hit wonder, and then she's rebellious teenager, turning 18, whatever, all that, and then her dad gets an offer, he turns it down, so she reaches out to this manager guy, and then she goes and she gets into the music industry, and that's the whole like, oh no, the world kind of sucks. Back home, back to roots, back to God and Christianity, and it's like not a bad story, but I don't know, probably had the weakest one, and it definitely felt like most of the cheesy Christian movies that I think a lot of people immediately think of when we bring up Christian media. So yeah, it was not bad, but not enjoyable. I don't think I'd ever watch it again. But then we have some that I really, really enjoyed. So with Time Changer, which I shared the video that is just literally the entire movie. It's so good. The message is so real. It's talking about the importance of keeping the authority of Jesus behind the teachings of Jesus. So we can't just teach the morality. We need to keep it's because Jesus said so behind it. And then he uses a time machine, travels forward in time, and sees the consequences of this idea of just teaching morality. It's like, oh, I'm a good guy, but there's nothing behind it because there's no authority behind the morality. It's just like, yes, lean into the morality that we all instinctively have because God put it there, and continue to teach that and continue to get people to like, oh, this is good, this is right, and that thing is wrong, and then not backing it up with the authority of Jesus and where that leads. And it's here where we are, and it's where we're at, and it's like people are generally people aren't necessarily bad people, and they all have that, you know, sense of justice and that sense of morality, which is, it for the most part fairly akin to that of a Christian in the general sense, like don't murder, don't steal, those kinds of things, the things that are law. But Jesus isn't behind it anymore, and so therefore there is, yeah. It was very good. It was very thought-provoking, hence why I shared the entire movie here, why I shared the entire movie on Facebook, why I really enjoyed it. It was very cool. There's really not a whole lot to get into because the movie is very does it very well. So I'll just like refer you back to that post I made a couple days ago. The next one, oh gosh. The last 4 that I have to talk about. These are 4 that are based on true events, and they got me really bad. I guess we will start with the 2 that, we'll just go from smallest reaction to biggest reaction, but I love them all so much. I just watched Ordinary Angels, which has, Solomon Grundy from the Gotham show. I can't remember what his, Butch something, I don't remember his last name, but the guy who plays Butch in Gotham plays a pastor in Ordinary Angels, and I remember this movie. I never watched it in theaters, but I remembered, I started this movie and remembered partway through it, oh my gosh, I knew this guy was in it because he shows up in the trailers, and I saw like one trailer for it when it came out, and I was like, no way! So that was insane. Like the first scene of him, he's preaching at the front of a church at the main character's wife's funeral because she dies and leaves all the medical bills, and their daughter is sick and with a failing liver and all of that, and that leads into how this stranger happens into this funeral, gets connected with the girls, and then comes alongside them and helps pull them out of all the medical debt. So the story is very good. And it starts with them talking at the front of the church with this lady's funeral, and you don't really get to see up close with his face. And I just, by the end of his little sermon thing, I'm just like, wait a second, I know that voice. Show the guy up close. And then it did, and I was like, mind blown. Not at all what I was expecting. When the only other thing I've seen him in is Gotham. So it was a very good, very wholesome story, and just seeing how this lady Sharon comes alongside, and the lengths she goes to help them, even though she's not this perfect person, still what God is able to use her for, and how she it's just a very good story. I highly recommend all 4 of the ones I'm about to talk about, but this one too, I'll probably say it at every single one of them. Highly recommend. It was very good. It was a very wholesome and good story. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was very well done. And then the other one is, I might have a little rant about this. The other one is Jesus Revolution. That's the other one that didn't have as like intense, I guess, of a reaction. So yeah, Jesus Revolution. It took me far too long to recognize the name Greg Laurie while we were going through the movie. I think I was probably a half an hour to an hour into it when I realized, oh wait, I know the name Greg Laurie. I had no idea it was his story. I just knew Jonathan Roumie was in it, and it was about this pastor inviting hippies into his church at a time where like everyone pushed hippies away and were like, they can't be helped. So yeah, that's what I knew. Which also, Jonathan Roumie showed up on screen and he started talking, not in his Jesus accent. And I didn't know what to do with that. It sounded very wrong for the first hour of the movie. I was like, that's not right. Because like I haven't really watched any interviews and things, so like I don't know what he actually sounds like. I know he doesn't have an accent, but I also don't know what he actually sounds like. And I know he doesn't sound like I'm blanking on the hippie pastor's first name. I know his last name is Frisbee, but I'm blanking but he doesn't sound like him either. But still, hearing him talk not with his chosen accent was very jarring to me. But again, he did a wonderful job. And it's just, again, it's a very cool story of bringing in these outcasts and ministering to the people to the ones that people in society want to ignore. And it's very good. But the biggest thing that hit me, I think, in this movie is the first time Roumie's character gets introduced to the main pastor guy, who, you know, eventually invites people into the church, who is, you know, he has to change his mind in order to bring him in. He's talking to him, he's explaining the situation of his people, of the hippies, and he's like, they're on a quest for God. They are looking for God in all the wrong places, and they are just truly desperate. And it's just him going through that and talking about it. My brain in this day and age shifted to the LGBTQ society, the community, whatever group term we want to use for them, but the LGBTQ community. That's where my brain went, because they are searching for something, for love that is clearly not, you know, orthodox. And they're searching for something beyond that, but they're looking for it in the wrong places. And so they are mutilating their bodies, and they are mutilating their lives, and their all of that. And they're just their vision of themselves in society, searching for something, desperately searching for something. And it's just not the right place. And so they had Jonathan Roumie explain this whole situation with the hippies and how they were searching for God and all of those things. It just kept reminding me of the LGBTQ community. The difference is, unlike in that time where the hippies were considered outcasts by everyone, not just the church, and so when the church welcomed them in, they were then open to that and open to that change. The LGBTQ community nowadays is basically put on a pedestal and held above everyone, and we're trying so hard to include them in everything that it's getting ridiculous. And so they don't have that sense of being then outcast and being then even like the desperation gets dulled because everyone around you is trying so hard not to offend you and trying so hard to like support you, that we are dulled to that desperation. And then that keeps, I feel like that prevents them sometimes from seeing that this desperation, what they're searching for, isn't actually what they're finding in this lifestyle that they're choosing. And so I'm not saying that is I don't know how to word this. I just saw so many parallels between the movie Jesus Revolution and today's society with the LGBTQ community, and the difference of the hippies being outcasts and therefore searching for that belonging and finding it in the church, in God's people, and now being held by all of society except, in unfortunately less and less cases, except the church. And so therefore they don't feel, their desperation gets dulled and they're not feeling that need for belonging as much. And so then they don't turn to the church because they don't have to, because everyone welcomes them. And so therefore they don't turn to the church and all that to find that sense of belonging. And then they don't get exposed to the news that they actually do need to hear, and they actually do need to find then to fill the void that they're trying to fill with everything else that they're doing. I don't know, that made sense in my head. It makes sense in my head. I don't know if I communicated it well, but that's kind of where my brain went throughout that entire movie. So yeah, very good movie. I, again, highly recommend. It's just a very good story, and it's very well done, and just, yeah, I found it very interesting to see the parallels between that situation and some of the stuff that's going on nowadays. But yeah, it was very good. All right, now into the movies that probably got the most intense reaction out of me. We'll do Sound of Freedom first. If you don't know what Sound of Freedom is, it is a movie about a guy, Homeland Security, I believe is where he works at the beginning of the movie, who he takes down pedophiles. He uses, he kind of does it in an undercover thing, and he uses this pedophile that they get take down, and he uses that to save a boy, who he then finds out about this boy's sister. So then he goes on a quest to find this boy's sister, and so he gets fairly deep in the human trafficking industry and is going into it in order to get kids out of it, and goes to any lengths to get this girl back, which is like, oh cool, love this story. I'm just like, yes! It sickens me. It literally sickens me. There were moments where I sat there and I borderline wanted to vomit, because not only is it human trafficking, it's child human trafficking for the purpose of sex, and it literally sickens me. And then at the end, we had a lovely statistic at the end of the movie, but the US is the largest consumer of child human trafficking. That made me want to barf. It made me very, very proud to be an American. So yeah, that movie kind of made me want to vomit, and it made me very angry, and I don't necessarily know what to do with all of these feelings, because not only is human trafficking, which is awful, it was children, and I work with children, and I have a massive heart for children, and so I hit so many people in this movie, and it's awful because it's not a movie. It was based on a real story. This guy actually did this. He actually deals with this, and it's actually a thing. And I hate that it's a thing, and I don't know what to do with this, and with the information that I now have, with this very deep-pitted hatred that I have. I think that is the first time I have used hate as a term for a group of like, not like a group of people, but like the action of a certain like group of people. I hate pedophilia. That's the first time I think I have used hate in that way. For something actually in my life, I hate pedophilia. And I use this terminology on purpose. I do not hate pedophiles, I hate pedophilia. I actively try to voice hatred for a sin versus the person, because if that pedophile sees this is wrong and learns about Jesus and repents and like accepts that, he's going to heaven, whether I hate him or not. So yes, I'm very intentional about how I word things like that. Like I don't hate homosexuals. I hate homosexuality. I don't hate transgenders. I hate transgenderism. Like, it is not the person I dislike, it is the action that, or the choice that they are making. So just to be very clear about that and why I phrase things that way, just in case anyone has, probably haven't, but in case anyone's noticed that. Yes, very intentional about how I word things like that. Yes, I hate pedophilia. I have a newfound, I've always hated the idea of pedophilia, but I have a newfound hatred for it because of this movie. So again, highly, highly recommend. I would love to know what the heck to do with these emotions. I really would, but I don't yet, and we'll get there. But this is where we're at. I'm just, yeah, it was awful, but it was so good. So again, yes, highly recommend. It's very good. The story is just insane and I love it, and it's so cool and semi-nausea inducing, but I really enjoyed it. So that one was very good. Last one. This one made me literally cry. I think I would count it twice. There were other times I almost did, but I will count twice that I actually cried. I watched Unplanned. I have not been as vocal about this particular topic on this channel. Like, I know I've gone off about transgenderism and homosexuality and all of that before on this channel, but I have never gone off about abortion yet, which is semi-surprising, because from the moment that I understood what abortion was, like when I actually learned about it, which would have been like middle school, early high school, probably around freshman year, I literally hated it. I've always had a heart for children. I haven't totally realized the extent of it until I started working in a daycare, and started being like, this could be my career, despite the entirety of my childhood going, I'm gonna be a writer no matter what, and then getting into the childcare industry and realizing just how much I love kids. But I have always felt that to some extent, and very, very strongly, I have always very, very strongly been opposed to abortion, because I've understanding what that means, suddenly understanding what that is, and early on in like my research of abortion, finding an article, which I realize now after watching this movie is about this lady's experience, where she watches this abortion on an ultrasound. She gets to see the ultrasound, and she gets to watch this baby move away from this vacuum needle thing, which the first 10 minutes of this movie, they show an abortion on screen. Which, if that doesn't make you completely furious and disgusted, I do not know what will. I watched them on screen. It wasn't a real baby, obviously, but I watched them vacuum up a baby into a tube, into literal red mush. And I was very sitting there, and because of that, it was intense. I was into it and so I did not move externally. Internally, I wanted to throw everything within reach. Like, it made me absolutely furious. Absolutely furious. And so then going through all of this, and then we go back and we see this lady's rise in Planned Parenthood, and her then like this misunderstanding of what their mission is and what abortion is, and how she justifies it even as a Christian, and kind of tries to justify it away. And then in that moment, helping with that, seeing that, suddenly being like, I can't deny this anymore. What have I been doing? And breaks down in the bathroom, and it's just wonderful acting on her part, which is like, the movie is wonderful. And like, we have Christians praying at the gate. We have this woman who is a genuinely good person, who genuinely wants to help other women, but has this misunderstanding of what abortion is, and has this misunderstanding of what Planned Parenthood's goal is. And then we see her slowly have her eyes opened as she goes up the food chain and realizing that something's not right, and then helping with that abortion and being like, no, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And it's so good. Oh man, I cried. There were lots of tears. They didn't all escape my eyes, but there were lots of tears. From the moment they started showing that abortion to basically the end of the movie. And there is a moment where they go into the back room, which is a room where the people have to reassemble an aborted baby to make sure that nothing is left within the mother's uterus before they dispose of it as hazardous waste. I talked about how that the first time I used like the word hatred in that sense was toward pedophilia. I may have lied. Like that was in the moment, like I'm talking about pedophilia. This is awful. Abortion, in my opinion, is worse because it's not just, I know in God's eyes all sins are the same, which is a hard thing to wrap my head around, but like abortion in my brain is worse because it is not, it's literal murder, which I know is not worse, and I know there are so many horrible things that happen in child human trafficking, but like, it's probably partially because I've hated abortion a lot longer than I have hated pedophilia. I've always hated abortion. I have not always used that word to describe my feelings towards it, but I have always hated abortion with a burning passion. And this movie it reignited it and fanned the flame a lot higher. And I legitimately don't think I can properly express the emotions that I have towards abortion. And I will be clear, I do not hold many of my emotions against the women who do choose to have that, because a lot of times they're young and they do not understand what all is happening, or like the lady says when she gets out and she's standing at the fence and she sees someone come in, she gets her impulse or sign goes, they're gonna take an ultrasound to see how far along you are, but they won't let you see it They won't let you see your baby. They won't let you understand the actual, the full weight of what you were actually doing. Because if you see that baby move around and have the shape, probably somewhat of the shape of a human, you're not gonna want to do this anymore. You'll have it, as much as the research says they don't count as human beings until such and such weeks, seeing them in that human, like taking on their more humanoid features, and moving around and clearly alive. Yeah, I don't have any more words, I don't think, because it's all lost in emotion at this point. And again, this is something I don't entirely know what to do with all of this. I don't know what to do with this information. I don't know what to do with all of these feelings that I have. I have never known what to do with all of this. As far as I know, there are no Planned Parenthoods at least near where the city I'm in. I don't know if there are any in my state. That's something I would have to look up. But like, it's so, I feel like it's very disconnected from where I'm at in this country. So sometimes it's very hard to know what to do with all of these emotions, because you don't really feel that as much where we're at. And I know, I'm sure there's things around this state, but like, I don't know. It's just lots of emotions, and I don't know what to do with all of them. But again, highly recommend. Like, this was probably top of my list, but that mostly because abortion is such a sensitive topic for me that I have always felt so deeply about. But yeah, those are my thoughts on these movies. I know it's very abbreviated compared to some of my other reviews, but these are real stories, most of them, and it's just, I can't really, there's not a whole lot for me to express. It's just a lot of like, there's some obviously revelations that happen as I watch through those things, and like connections that I make with now, but a lot of it is just feeling these stories and experiencing these stories that really did happen. And it's crazy, and it's a roller coaster of feelings, and it's just something that these stories were made into this format for us to experience and to get the word out. And I don't know. I legitimately don't know. I feel like a lot of Christian media, pretty much all of the best Christian media, it is based on real events, whether that be the biblical things that we make, whether that's like the Passion of the Christ or the Chosen or whatever, the biblical things or stories that have happened within the last few hundred years of people that have become like huge, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but like these huge figures in faith, or even the smaller ones like Ordinary Angels, where there's stories that for a lot of people would get overlooked, that like they don't necessarily know who the Sharon and Ed are, but they're just sharing these stories as encouragement and as things, eye-opening experiences. And so it doesn't take a lot of analyzing, and it doesn't take a lot of reviewing per se. It's literally just there for us to experience, to find encouragement, for us to see the reality of some of the realities of the world. And yeah, those are my thoughts on these movies. If you have watched any or all of them, I would love to continue the discussion in the comments. But for now, I think that'll be it. I post videos on this channel on Saturdays for the time being, and I post videos on my audiobook channel on Thursdays, and I'll see y'all next time.